what their parents said, or just because of what a community says, or what society says in general, of what you can and cannot do with your life, what you have to be doing at the age of 25, at the age of 27, at the age of 30.
I have a quote here, I think, from you. I decided to take it into my own hands and write the dream role I always wanted to play.
So I've been in Hollywood for a while, and I've auditioned for a lot of roles. And a lot of the roles that I was auditioning for tended to be the same type of roles. So they were stereotypes. They were putting me in a box of these characters would be going through an arranged marriage, or they would have strict parents, or they would be pursuing a career that they didn't necessarily want to pursue, but they were too afraid to do the other thing. And so I just noticed, like a couple of those roles, I'm like, oh, okay, this feels interesting. This feels like a new way of telling the story. But then it just kept happening, that it was the same role over and over. And I didn't really understand it. But then I understood that Hollywood sees different ethnic groups as monoliths and only sees this person in this type of role as a doctor or a smart tech person. And so for me, I just wanted to be able to play a role where it was more nuanced, and maybe there are bits and pieces of that, as in Definition Please, Monica does have a science background, which is somewhat of a stereotype, but I wanted to take that genius stereotype and that science background and merge it into something new and that I hadn't seen before. And I said, okay, well, she smokes weed and she hooks up with guys and she's pretty chill, except in this one family department. And so it was exciting for me to play and create a role that had so many facets to it instead of this one thing. And that's what I set out to do. In terms of casting the roles in my film, a really fun story for me was when I got a hold of Anna Kaja, who plays Jaya, the mom in my film. And she said, yeah, of course, send me the script. And then I sent her the script, and she responded by saying, I've played a lot of South Asian moms. She has played Priyanka's mom in Quantico. She has played Jamila's mom on The Good Place. She has played Ritesh, who plays the role of Sunny in my film. She played his mom on his TV show Stitchers already. So she had already played his mom before, and she said, I've never seen this role before. And this is really exciting because the mom in my movie has such a fun arc. And she said that it was just going to be really fun to play that role because she had never been offered something like that before. And that was exciting for me to hear, because I wanted to not only write the role for myself that I wanted to play, but I wanted to write other characters that my friends who had maybe been offered certain types of roles in the past, that they would also be excited to come in and be like, oh, I've never gotten to do this before. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
And your brother has an arc too. Pretty intense arc.
Yes, all the characters. I definitely wanted to make sure that every single character has their own story and their own journey.
How do you feel about actors who refuse to write roles for themselves, create their own work? So they don't want to be put in a box. They don't want to have to play the same type of person over and over again, but then they're not willing to create work that they actually want to watch.
I feel that a lot of people are different, and some people just don't have like the patience or the discipline to sit down at a computer and write their own roles. But then I say, you got to go out and make writer friends. You got to make these writer friends. You got to make these filmmaker friends, these director friends, and get them excited about your story. Get them excited about the roles that you want to play and that you haven't seen. So if you feel like you can't do it yourself, then surround yourself with other creative people who maybe can do that for you.
And in this day and age, do you think it's reasonable for people not to want to create their own work? Because it's not about sitting home waiting for someone to call anymore. So much of work is self-generated today.
I think in this day and age, you really do have to go out and create your own work, and there's no excuses anymore. Like I said, the iPhone 13 just came out, and if you've looked at the cinematic mode of that iPhone, you can make an amazing short film shot on the iPhone 13 and get sound equipment from Amazon and just have it have really great cinematic quality and have really great sound. And you don't even have to go that far. There are TikTok videos that I watch of different people and their parents and their grandparents that are just as exciting. And even if you don't feel like you can go as far as to make a short film, you can make little videos on TikTok or YouTube or Instagram Live and figure out what works for you, and maybe put videos up on Snapchat. And if that doesn't work for you, then take another path. Like I said, it's all about taking risks. It's all about actually doing it. So even if you think, oh, I can't write this for myself, then make a friend. Go to these UCB sketch writing classes. Go to these improv classes. You'll make friends in those classes. That's what I've done. And then you continue to work with those people that you really gel with. And that's what's exciting. So find your community and all create work together.
Do you wish you had started writing earlier in your career?
I started writing pretty young. So I started writing short stories and poems and songs since, I don't know, second grade or something. I was always really into my books. I was always really into stories. When I would go to the Indian parties with my parents on the weekends, graduations, birthdays, and anniversaries, and Thanksgivings, I was always sitting in the corner reading my book, just into my stories, and that inspired me to write my own stories. And so I've written stories that I've transferred into scripts, and so I started writing very young, and I was always really good. Like I mentioned, I was really good at math and science, but I was also good at English too. So that was part of it, and I enjoyed writing. It gave me a break from the rigid structure of math and science, and it was always a stress reliever for me. So I really enjoyed writing from a very young age. So transferring it over to screenwriting wasn't a hard thing to do for me.
So when you would be going to those parties and family barbecues, whatever, and you had the book, were people like, put the book down, come join us, what are you doing?
Never. That's not an Indian thing to do.
Okay.
They'd be like, oh, she's studying.
Oh,
Even though I'd be
alone.
reading
Okay.
like Babysitter's Club or Sweet Valley Twins or Sweet Valley High, I wouldn't necessarily be studying. But in the Indian American community, you don't really stop a kid from reading.
Okay.
Ever.
Do you feel you have a choice to write, direct, and act? Or it's a compulsion? Like you can't not do it?
It's a compulsion. And I think it goes back to your first question of having a backup plan. And there's honestly, I think there have been various acting classes that I've been in out here, and they always say, if there's anything else that you want to be doing, you need to go out and do that instead of being in entertainment. There's honestly nothing else I would rather be doing. And I know that if I had stayed at that job at Accenture, I would be making billions and millions of dollars at this point and been promoted, and that just wasn't it for me. And it's not about the money, and it's about waking up every day and getting to live my dream. And that's what keeps me going. And that's where the compulsion comes from.
Do you ever have friends that took that path, and there's nothing wrong with that path, who say, wow, I secretly envy you. I love that you went out on your own and you kind of forged your way and you didn't worry about whether you had this title or that at this point?
All the time. Lots of friends who went a certain path that they were maybe supposedly had to go down because of what their parents said, or just because of what a community says, or what society says in general, of what you can and cannot do with your life, what you have to be doing at the age of 25, at the age of 27, at the age of 30. And yeah, there are a lot of friends that are envious of what I'm doing. And I'm just really happy to be living the life that I'm living.
How many characters have you actually created for yourself?
Whew. Multiple. I've created so many characters for myself, and some of those characters have probably never made it to the screen, but they're still on the page or they're still in my mind. And it's exciting because none of them are the same. And they're all based on maybe something small, something real that has happened to me, an experience or a thought or an inspiration. But all those characters are so different. And that's what's exciting, because there are so many roles that I've created for myself that I'm excited to play very soon. And to imagine them visually on screen is what I live for.
What's one that you haven't created yet that you want to play? Like it would really take you out of your comfort zone or challenge you?
I felt like my role in Definition Please was pretty challenging. That's one of the most dramatic pieces that I've ever written. It's definitely a dramedy, but it leans into that drama for bits of the script. And I think going to those vulnerable places as an actor, I was just really lucky to surround myself with amazing actors that truly brought it and made me a better actor. And so playing the role of Monica in Definition Please was very challenging and very fulfilling on its own. And I believe that there are roles percolating in my head that I'm not aware of that will come out at some point. And I'm excited to face the challenge of those roles too.
And I know you get asked this a lot, but how much of Sujata was in that role?
Not a lot. Not a lot. I think, like I mentioned, the entire script was based on me winning my class spelling bee. So I obviously never won the national spelling bee, or else it would be Googleable. But that Definition Please and that character was based on a lot of different experiences and people that I've come across in my life. Being around a really large, flourishing Indian American community in Western Pennsylvania, and then also college. And after college, I took little pieces of my life to create the fictional world of Definition Please.
And so instead of a coming home story, it's a leaving home story, because the character has options. She just chooses her surroundings.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Maybe I don't know spoilers here, but how come not a coming home story where you decided to come home to the same situation, but you had the career? What was the difference? Why did you do the opposite?
I think what was really exciting for me to explore with Monica is the idea of a stunted growth, the idea of I've been successful, I've had the peak of my life. What is ever going to be better than winning the national spelling bee? And those thoughts in your head, oh, nothing's ever going to top that. It's like being the quarterback of the winning team senior year of high school, and then 20 years later, you are not really doing much. And so that kind of story is exciting to me, of like a stunted growth of how is my life like, and how can I get out of it? As opposed to a coming home story, I feel like I've seen that many times before, and I wanted to explore something new in terms of what you said, a leaving home story.
Oh, so reliving the glory of these different, because some people, high school was not their glory time.
Yes.
and it was actually an awful time, and they don't want to relive it. But then there's others that they do. You're right. They peak at a certain age, and I would imagine that would be very difficult. And then nothing sort of, the magic never happens again.
Yes, yes. I think that's what's exciting to me, that story.